Okay, great. So welcome all again to Value and Vibes with Rivelle. As always, we are in the space of arts, entertainment, education, and now today beauty, where we explore all avenues, talk to financial professionals, and understand how we can work together, better their lives, and even learn from them. So without further ado, I'm here to introduce Jenn Harper from Cheekbone Beauty. So Jenn, thank you so much for coming here.
Thanks for
I truly appreciate it. And without further ado, don't hesitate. The floor is yours. Introduce yourself.
So, I am the founder and CEO of Cheekbone Beauty Cosmetics. That's my role, but I'm also a mom, a wife, community member, daughter, sister, and I just feel like trying to be a good citizen of Earth all the time, right? Trying to do my best. Yeah, that's me in the smallest form. We can get into more of it. I didn't start in the beauty industry. My career path has been mostly started in hospitality and then the food industry. And I was actually selling seafood. I worked for a seafood company as their sales and marketing person when I had the actual pop out of bed middle of the night dream about 3 Indigenous little girls covered in lip gloss. And that's sort of the origin story of Cheekbone Beauty. Then get into the beauty industry and learn that, I don't think as consumers we know enough about how and things where are made and where they come from and who and what is impacted. And so as I was on the journey learning more, I realized there is a brand that deserves to exist, one that's not only providing representation for Indigenous communities, but then also actively trying to figure out, is there a way to make things better? And then I'm sort of leaning into that as from more of an environmental sustainability perspective. And so the more I learned about ingredients, the more I realized a brand like ours needed to exist.
Oh, I love how and I love how you said about the representation that is there, because your business has been around for a long time. 2016, I understand, around there is where more or less it started, and then 2021 was in Sephora.
Correct.
Right? And what I found is so interesting about your brand, it's like not even only in Canada where for Indigenous women, it's like Indigenous women, whether they are mixed race or from different places, they connect to your brand because it's like I see something that I relate to. So I've seen like in Canada, I've seen in the US, me myself, and so much of others have said like it's just so refreshing like in a North American space that we get to see that, and which is so interesting because it's like this is your land but yet you're not seeing that representation there when it should be there. And seeing that in that makeup line, I think it's such a wonderful thing. It's like it's sort of like a reminder, like we've always been here, we've always been into beauty, we've always been into health, we've always been into utilizing natural resources from the environment for our everyday life. So that's one thing I really say I loved about Cheekbone Beauty.
Thank you. And it's true. It seems way too long into our process of time in history to have been that long before having a brand that should be. And that's when, now that we're in this space, and I just think of not even in beauty, but consumer goods, the things we're using, the products we're using, like who is behind them and what do they mean for us and who do they represent? And I never thought about those things, to be quite honest, prior to starting the brand. I didn't really personally, I think, fully understand how important it is to feel seen and be seen. And I feel like that's been such an integral part of building the business, is recognizing that like that part of the work has been so important to our communities.
Oh yeah, I would definitely say so too. And like one thing that like you said too is that you don't sometimes think about the representation because you know yourself, you live your daily life, and it's only if you're in certain places it sort of kind of reignites that thought about, are you really seen or are you really not seen? Like for me, coming from Trinidad and Tobago and having friends and relatives who are Indigenous or Afro-Indigenous or mixed race Indigenous persons, being in a Caribbean space, it's almost as if like, you're seen because you're seeing more of yourself even in a multicultural space. But I think in North America, being a bigger space, sometimes you tend to forget, are you seen?
Yeah.
Are you seen?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you not really seen? Are you just there? And like you said, it just sort of builds that consciousness.
Yeah, And how often is it when you do see your people, so to speak, you just feel this automatic connection, like on this heart to heart level. And I know whatever, I've been traveling somewhere in the world and you run into another Indigenous person, you have that automatic connection. And I see it. My husband's Italian, and so the moment he meets another Italian, it's cultural. It's like that deep connection because of your roots. You understand each other, and I imagine most of us quite possibly could have a completely different life, but it's incredible to me how that culture, the blood in our veins really does draw us close to each other.
Oh yes, like even through like some of my older siblings, she has friends who are Anishinaabe. Am I correct? Pronounce that correctly? And you know, we invited them into our cultural space in Trinidad and Tobago through our carnival celebrations, and some of them said that I never knew so much of indigenous cultures were so integral in parts of the Caribbean and so forth. And many of them said, you know, we are really connected in very different ways, but very, very similar in so much of ways, just expressed differently, and so forth. So you are right. Like, I think no matter where in the world we are, there's that connection that even if I don't know nothing about your nation and you don't know about mine, there's that easy ground where it's like it's very relatable. It's very, very relatable.
And it wasn't until I was older, maybe started to travel more, I feel like I was really ignorant to the indigenous groups of people, not just in the North American continent, South America, Central America, when we moved to New Zealand, Australia, like all over the planet. Recently, this past summer, I spent time in Japan, and they have an indigenous group of people called the Ainu as well. And so I love traveling because it's just so fascinating that you really see, and then you're connected, albeit something tragic, but colonization, how that truly has impacted all of these indigenous communities around the world with the same tactics. Like man, since the beginning of time, has discovered they like something and realized we have to be more powerful and conquer this group, dehumanize them, and then we can get what we want. And that's the story about, I think, all of our histories is human. That's just how it's gone on. And so you have that relate to as well. And it's really interesting that some time I spent in New Zealand really seeing how the indigenous people there as well really suffer in the same sense that we did here in Canada and the United States. And it's not that it's kind of awful that that's how we connect, but the stories are the same. And then what is beautiful is seeing us take our stories now as Indigenous people, being the ones to own them, us being the ones to talk about them, but then seeing how, something really bad can happen, but we have the ability as individuals with all of our family and our family systems to be the one to maybe be the one to change that generation.
Yes, and one of my good friends from Trinidad and Tobago, he's a music educator, and he lived in New Zealand for 2 years. And he said, I loved it so much. And he said that some of his peers who he met there, they're like, you didn't feel strange being in a culture, because from the Caribbean to New Zealand, it's obviously, that's a totally different culture, because the majority of us are indigenous, and the minority of those that are not are from Africa or different countries and whatever. And he was like, in Trinidad and Tobago, like, we've lived like amongst Amerindians for like so long, and that he's like, I never consciously thought about it, because you have all these indigenous groups, then you have the Afro-Indigenous groups, then you have the mixed race indigenous groups, then you have Chinese, then you have all these people. So, and especially with indigenous people, especially in the Caribbean, we've lived alongside them for so many years. Some of our own family members are half or full. So he said, going to New Zealand, even though I knew nothing about the culture, because I've lived around these people for so long, it's just another country. It's just about just learning a different culture. And he said, I made the best of friends that now they're like best friends for the rest of my life. They learned about my culture, I learned about theirs, and he said it's just a wonderful exchange. He said, I
feel like too, like the island life has the same, like, obviously one island is a little bit bigger than the other, but you feel when you go to New Zealand, it really does give off Islanders have a different vibe. No
Yes.
matter where you go in the world, even in Canada, we have Prince Edward Island, and you will go there, and it's way more laid back than the rest of Canada. They're relaxed. They take, like, I always
Yeah.
feel like Islanders have a whole different vibe, and I absolutely love that.
Yes. And but one thing I do want to pick where you said is that who is representing these brands, who is responsible, the trajectory as well too, right? Like you said, you only thought about it consciously, like who is really representing, who's investing, who's putting in, who's really doing all of these different things in your. I know you said now that you're a CEO and an owner, now you actually think about these things, right? And of course, finance plays a role because particular persons would be investing their monies to produce a particular image
Yeah.
and have it look a certain way. So, and of course, I mean, building a business is not cheap.
No.
It's not, and it's also not for the faint-hearted and the weak. So, for you, what is something that you would say that you had to really invest a lot of your time, and finance had to play a role in it? Like something that you definitely were like, I actually didn't know. I had to spend this money.
Yeah, there's a laundry list. There really is. I've made a lot of mistakes on the journey, and a lot of it has included dollars and cents. Not having any experience ever building a business before, and I really think the biggest place I've invested my personal time now and is in learning and knowledge and just recognizing, there's so many aspects of business, and I didn't know enough about the finance bucket. I didn't know enough about the operations bucket. I was entering this business literally through the lens of like marketing and sales because that was my career background going into this. And perhaps customer relationships because I really did come from hospitality where, I really think at Cheekbone Beauty we have like excellent customer service because I always felt that to be such a big part of my past career and wanted to embed it into the business and recognize customers are your everything as a brand. They're what make or break your business. So you want to make sure you're treating them as best as possible and listening to them. And so those areas we've always done really well in. It's only over the last 4 years, I would say that, originally I had hired people because you hear all this different advice in the business world. They're like, okay, if you don't know the thing, go hire someone smarter than you that can do the thing. But the honest truth is, if you don't know the thing, how do you even know you're hiring the right person to do the thing? And I have made that mistake terribly way too many times. And so over the last 4 years, in particular, probably the last 2 even deeper, I was like, enough, I am learning the thing. And it's something that I am not that's not my strength is finance and operations. And so those are 2 components of our business where I had to go, look, I have to learn this, I have to understand this in order to ask better questions, ask smarter questions of the people that I've hired to do that job. And last year, our business was this close to having to close our doors because we were in that much trouble.
Oh, wow.
And now that I was now armed with the knowledge, we were able, not only me to lead the team to turn the company completely around, because this year we ended our fiscal being profitable. Not by a massive a dollar amount, but it's far better than being in the hole hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to turn the company completely around. And it was because I had to learn finance. I had to learn and understand operations and then realize, we have to literally, and sometimes much like I look at this much like my personal journey in life. For me, I came from a very traumatic childhood upbringing and it caused a lot of trauma in my adult life. When I realized that, I looked at myself and I said, you know what, I need like a personal teardown, that down to my core, my roots, my foundation. And I had to rebuild myself to be the person that I am today. And that took many, many years. But I'm super grateful and proud that I get to be on this journey of life and live that. And then with the business, I ultimately had to do that in terms of the operations. And we were like, whatever was going on there was not working. So we had to literally tear that down and rebuild the operations. And this year, it's been incredible to watch us turn that around. And then I had to go into the finance bucket as well and say, okay, what isn't working here? How can we change these things? And really, for me to learn and understand operationally where you can cut costs, and then where you want to spend more money and make different decisions that way. And it also included hiring people, changing people's roles or positions, and who in the company is comfortable to stay on and make those changes with you, right? So it's not easy, and none of those things I knew before, and I had to learn everything from literally in areas that are in the past extremely uncomfortable with. Like, of course I could look at a P&L and I knew what all of the things meant, but now talk about understanding every week. When I now have my team, they have to send me my like weekly dashboard of like all of the things happening in finance, understanding cash flow, like where we are today, how much money do we have, and how long is it going to last if this thing didn't happen or this thing didn't happen, and really being prepared and planned for that. Whereas before, I come from that world of more, okay, I have these great ideas of all the products I want to make, and I'm a creative, I think, at heart, and of course those things are really important because it's what makes your business exciting to the consumer. But sadly, I really had to stop and be like, okay, on this day of the week, Jenn's in finance and operations, and that creative part of my brain is just completely has to turn off, and I have to like do that thing and not this thing. And then really, my calendar is literally broken out on the days where I get to be creative, and the days where I have to look at finance, the days where I have to look at operations, the days that I then get to jump into more marketing and then product development.
I like that. So I like what you said is that one of the underestimated things is that investing money into spaces or time in people that you don't even know if it could effectively help you, because you yourself don't know if you need to invest in it anyways.
Exactly.
So I think that I mean, prior to my show, I have interviewed some that have said that, barriers with maybe communicating, maybe not understanding my business. But I think what's interesting about your perspective, you said, I didn't even understand what I needed to even source the person to help me with the problem. So you needed to know what were the problems, or what was that I just didn't understand, to hire the right persons to just get that where it needs to be. And like you said, investing that money, you can't get that back. Obviously not, right?
Lots of wasted dollars on the wrong people, and that is just the facts. And thankfully, we've been able to still exist, because in some cases, something like that could happen, and that could mean the end of your business. So that's like how serious of an issue it is. If you could people have hired the wrong person, and at the end of the day can put the business in a position where they're not even able to be in business anymore. And so it's critical to figure those things out as soon as possible and as fast as possible. And that's where, you know what, I honestly didn't ask for enough help. I recognize now that, if I needed to hire a finance person, I most certainly should have sought out more help from my networks, all the resources I have of people that know that space, and tell me if this was the right person to do that job, or if the right person to operate. So those are questions and resources I should have utilized. And as a CEO and as the founder and the leader, I'm always going to take 100% of the responsibility when something's not going well, right? Because I've taken on that role. That is now my job, that didn't work and failed. And I'm just super grateful that we've been able to still exist despite all of my mistakes.
Wow. So one thing I commend is that you're like, guess what? I fielded many of these things. I lost thousands of dollars that I can't get back, but well, quite some pretty pennies that you lost. But your thing is that I now know better how to not do that again. And if there are other hurdles, I'm going to assume that you do come up as the company expands or grows creatively, or however it's growing, because it is blooming. I wouldn't say it has bloomed. It is blooming because you all are doing so much, and when it looks looks like it's getting bigger. It's like it's getting bigger and bigger, not only just as products or marketing, but just different aspects of the business. And as you said, that thousands of dollars, are spent, and it's underestimated when you don't have that advice, or like you said, just dig into your networks. Right? So I guess being that would you say that is maybe one of your biggest financial challenges, always trying to understand what you need to invest to make sense? Or would you just say like one of your biggest financial challenges, or if there's many, it starts off with, like you said, knowing who do I go to, knowing what to invest in to help me with the problem?
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like because we've overcome that, we're in a new position where probably my biggest financial hurdle right now is, okay, where are we spending the money to scale, right? And you have, I can tell you in my LinkedIn DMs, from my Instagram DMs to my email inbox, I have every salesperson from every kind of organization on the entire planet telling me how they could, make my business turn around. Like those are the pitches we receive constantly. And it's truly, we're in a position now where like, okay, we're growing, everything's going well. Where are we going to spend the money next to scale the business? And so is it in product, right? We're not wasting money anymore on marketing platforms or certain programs. We hired an entire organization to come in, and people pitch you these wild things like they were going to add another $1 million in revenue from Sephora. And it's one of those situations where you're like, but how, right? Like, how are you doing it? We're selling this much to Sephora this year. How are you adding another $1 million to that? Realistically, and that's the truth. If someone cannot line by line, week by week, month by month, or quarter by quarter tell you exactly how and how many units of what shade of lipsticks they're going to grow you to get you there, then they don't know what they're talking about. And so that's key. Like, people have to. That's why I really believe that it's the people on our team that know our business the best, and it's us that are going to grow it. But perhaps there's tools out there to help us do it better, right?
Yeah, and well, like you said, with regards to financial professionals, like you said, that's going to be a financial obstacle because you may say, okay, how do I invest? Do I choose this person? Because in a room of 10 people, there could be 5 people right there that let's just say you're spending, I'm just giving a bald figure, a pretend figure. Let's just say it's maybe $1,000 per hour consultation, right? And let's just say out of those 10 people, there may be 5 that actually do make sense for your business and able to curate. And then there's another 5 that may not be, but then how do you know unless you chisel away? And then sometimes that could bar you, let's just say, from making another, let's say, 500,000 in revenue, or that could make you less, or that could make you more.
Yes.
You don't really know.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought, like you just said, all these persons in your LinkedIn, your DMs, like how I can grow your business and how I could grow all of these things, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't heard, like you say, any of those persons ever said, well, how would you personally like to be helped? I haven't heard. I've noticed in the DMs, nobody said that up to now.
No.
Nobody's asking.
And I think, the key is you're trying to trigger somebody when you're trying to sell them something. So I get the system that they're using, right? I think everyone gets excited about growth, but let's not treat founders, anybody in a leadership position that has the ability to hire you to come help them, they're more intelligent than that, right? They're not going to be enticed by saying you can grow their business by this X amount without facts or proof. So why not ask better questions, right? Even to the person you're trying to support, and then perhaps you can find out where the needs might be. But I feel like sales in how we reach out people and how we get to them has to adjust a little bit too, because we are just served so much information.
Overwhelming.
It's really overwhelming. Yeah, it is.
It's too much.
It's too much. Yeah, it's a lot. And I don't know how, as a society, we're going to control that, because not only is it happening on our socials, it's happening in our email, like it's happening everywhere. So it's like, how do you get the right information? And to be quite honest, the most incredible, I've never made a deal with someone ever from a deal or a DM in LinkedIn, Instagram, or my inbox. It's been at an in-person event. It's been a connection. So how do businesses go and get more clients to serve the people they want to serve? I think you need to show up in those spaces, right, where you want to get clients, or make sure you're building up your network so that your name comes up, right, when someone's looking for something. Because the truth is founders and business leaders in any industry, we all meet together. We have conversations constantly. And so what I've just gotten better at for my business personally is now I go to my network and ask for help, right? And so they're going to be the ones to serve you the resources. I don't think anyone's going to respond to a DM on LinkedIn or in their inbox anymore. I just don't think that's going to work. Yeah.
No, because it feels like you're kind of bombarding
there's
people.
just too many.
And let's just say, for example, even let's say out of 100 DMs, even if there were five
even
people.
I honestly don't even read them. I just click them to unhighlight them. That's all that happens. That's it.
Right.
We are very busy people. I have zero, the moment I get an email, even from my team, they know if it's more than one sentence, I'm not reading this. So come to me and have a conversation. Like, this is legit facts. I'll get emails. They don't get read past the subject line ever. I just don't have time. There's not enough hours in the day for me to read all the messages or emails that I'm sent. And so when you have your own team, it's internal. They know, like, if this is important, it's going to be in bold highlighter. Jen, read this part, because they know to say that. Then we have a weekly meeting, and all of those super important things have to be addressed to me there and then, or else, like, because if it's gone in an email, that's just not happening.
It's just gonna get lost on your rabbit hole.
It's just too much information, like, honestly.
And it's not curated. It's not just like specific.
Even then, it's just, there's so much. Like, I feel it. I feel like something has to give and something has to burst, because we live in this world where there's just so much information.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, like, for me, like, on my other episodes that I film, like with some with entertainers, those in entertainment, in education and finance, the main thing that I would keep asking, what is something that you would like? Because I don't see it as logical to bombard people.
Yeah.
And I see this from experience because I've also been a visual artist for 16 years. So for me, and working in research and working in like Pan-Africanism and research, one thing I've noticed with research and being in a business or being a business owner, I have found that if you give me exactly what I need, then I could start off from there and sort of take everything like a piece of Lego and build on it, rather than just flood me with a bunch of bricks.
And I don't know if I'm old school, but that would happen in a face-to-face relationship too. That's what I mean about when I get connected to someone. Most recently, I was looking for someone in employment law. I went to my LinkedIn community and asked there, and I got bombarded with a ton of information. But then there was a few people that sent me the info that I know personally, so you trust them a little deeper. Then I reached out to, got 3 lawyers from them, had meetings in person with the 3 lawyers, right? Chose the right lawyer for the situation, but based on face-to-face meetings. So it obviously on video call, because we're not meeting people in person, but that's to me how the work gets done. And so I had a problem, but now I know as a leader, I have a great LinkedIn network of people and people that I've now met in person, multiple events across North America in business over the last 10 years. So now then I usually take, obviously, people that I know personally's sort of advice and direction when I'm looking and seeking for something. If you're trying to find, like, this is the difficult part, because I used to be in sales where you were the one going and you needed to speak to someone. And back in my day, as I'm going to be 50, it would be, okay, if they're not answering the email, and people used to answer emails back then, so it was a little different time in the world, I would make the phone call, or I was showing up at their business to talk to them. Yeah. And that's honestly how I used to operate in sales. And I feel like if you're not willing to meet with someone face to face, then I think it's going to be a lot tougher to understand what they want and need. There's something so deep, and the deeper we get down this AI path of the less and less human connection. And don't get me wrong, I think there's wonderful tools. They service our business. They do so many things, but that human to human connection will never go away, unless it's like my generation dies off and maybe my daughter's, because I know I've taught my daughter this. I'm like, you want something, you go to like, she's a 3rd-year business Rotman student, U of T. I'm like, you show up at the prof's office hours. That's when you get what you want and need, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't send an email, like, just show up. And she's now, gonna graduate and already has a job, like internships every summer that she's worked, had job, and we have to teach our children that. So even then, I look at then maybe the next generation of her cousins that are little. I'm like, maybe that's the generation that they won't need human to human contact anymore. I don't know when it's going to happen. It feels like it's getting closer by all the stuff we see happening in the AI space. But for now, I know my generation, her generation still want to talk to people, and that still works effectively for us.
Oh yeah, and I think it's channeling it differently. So like Pineapple, we are very big on technology. We are huge on AI, But what we have done is that the things that are a bit laborious, that take away human time, is what we're placing the AI on.
1,000%.
So even some of my own colleagues, and sometimes I'll be like, you're always talking, and I'm always on the phone. I'm always speaking to somebody, because I like the fact that the tools that we have at Pineapple allows me to have more intimate time with people, and I could speak to them. Because sometimes when I'm having conversations with clients, sometimes they're even telling me like their problems. Sometimes I'm not even asking about the problems, or sometimes the conversation doesn't even, I'm not thinking about the conversation going there. Sometimes I'm not even selling or anything, even if it's during my work hours. And then sometimes any conversation I might have with somebody, sometimes they'll be like, one person I met, he was like, I didn't think about that until you spoke to me. And as you're speaking to me, I think that might be a problem. I think that might be a problem, because according to you, that human flow and connection.
Well, you're a very engaging person. I think that's that's one of your, if we talk about features, advantages, and benefits of like what we're pitching to people, like who wouldn't want to miss out on having a conversation with you? And that's powerful. And I think that's when you're behind a keyboard, when you're in, like you miss that, right? And as much as we try to twist it up and spice it up with language and how we say things to people, I think they lose that. There is this pathway of, on social media, if you have a platform and a presence, people get to know your personality a little bit through that, right? So that can be engaging. And podcasts, that's an excellent way for people get to see how engaging your personality is too. But like the whole, if you're not there in person, getting to meet you, having the feeling, the emotions that you're giving off, your vibrations, your energy, then that's missing. I'm all for more of this in the world.
I agree. And like you said, circling back, spending, not having that human connection can also even play a role in the financial, because if you don't get a good physical overview of what somebody is presenting to you or speaking to you, then how do you know where to invest your money? And that can make a difference. And then some business owners I've met, I've met some where they've been like, yeah, like my business finances are good, but my personal finances are not good. They're not good at all. And I've met some where the personal finances are good and the business finances are not good. And I've met some where both are good, but some of, like, one person I met, he's like, both are good now, but I don't know where to go forward from here. They're good, but I don't know what's next. I know there needs to be something
better?
next
What
to
is
be
missing,
better,
right?
and I don't know how it could be better, and I don't know what it could be better. How? I don't know. I just don't know. I know there's something that there doesn't need to be a glass ceiling, but there's definitely something like to enhance and to know better. So,
And that's probably that missing piece, that if you could fill that in for them and answer it for them, then they would say, oh, okay, I'm here, but if it could be better, paint that picture. What does that look like for them? What are they going to feel like knowing that because they had somebody new taking on their personal or business finances could put them in a different position, right? And those things like that, especially when it comes to finance, I feel like for me, like I said, hiring people, not knowing what I needed. Personally, it's this big trust. And that's the thing. It's like you really need to trust the person that you're working with when it comes to finances, for sure.
I totally agree. And would you say like that big, like being that one of the biggest maybe challenges in your field, knowing how much to invest and who to invest with the finance, do you think maybe sometimes even now, maybe in the early stages of growing Cheekbone Beauty, do you think maybe that even sometimes intersected your personal finances? Because, as a business owner, it's very important to keep your personal finances and your business finances. But sometimes, according to you, in your learning curve, the two could intersect.
Well, in the early days, yeah, most definitely they did. People, when they say you bootstrapped, I think that's like, it's not like I had all this finances. I was definitely taking from to fund the company. However, when we got invested in 2019, obviously the business completely changed. We became, I think we became incorporated in 2018 before this, but once the investors came on board, we have a board now. There's no mixing of anything anymore, right? It's all, obviously the business is financed that way, and my partner, they're completely separate for sure.
And would you say that was from a learning journey, like a learning curve, like how to? Would you say that no, I always kept it separate even if I didn't know where this was going, or
I had tried for sure to keep most things separate, but then when you're like, when someone's going to invest in you, there's a lot of due diligence that has to happen. So everything has to be super clear in terms of where money's going, how dollars are spent. They want to know exactly what they're investing in, right? And they're, at the end of the day, they're investing in me, the entrepreneur, and because they see growth potential in the business. And so we've been in a relationship since 2019. And they will be looking for an exit. How we'd envisioned a 10-year relationship, because we knew that the growth, the process wasn't going to be like overnight, and that's incredible. So now the next part for me is when I think about who's going to buy their shares in the company. That's tough because I'm really fortunate. I've had such an excellent relationship with our investors. The next part is scary if you're going to start working with traditional private equity, or who knows what it's going to look like, right?
Yeah, and I know that your brand is very big on being environmentally conscious.
Exactly. Those are
making a
issues
social
that
impact.
are hard.
And I mean, it is controversial because capitalism has their views. But to me, I believe that at the end of the day, the earth doesn't need humans.
No.
The earth is fine.
Thank you.
The earth is
Yes,
fine.
yeah.
Like since the crack of dawn, the earth is fine.
Without us.
Like the sun, the stars, the water.
Quite honestly, we're the ones who
Yeah, they're
done all the
functional.
damage.
We need them
Yeah.
more than anything else. And whether you want to look at it through a holistic lens, a cultural lens, a physical, the earth doesn't need us. The earth is perfectly fine on its own, right?
Yeah.
But we definitely can't cut away that moving into this modern age, that money again has to play a role, right? Because you, like, for example, you source vegan, products that are natural, right? They're not tampered. They don't intersect with any form of cruelty, right? They don't go against any belief system that might harm or impact other people.
Yeah.
And of course, money again is spent
Right.
going down that route, right? That's another. I'm going to assume that's another form of consideration that you have to have as well.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Because of having such a great, so our investors are called, they're Raven Capital, they're an Indigenous-led investment firm. So we've had really similar values alignment this whole time. When they do exit and we sell their shares to someone else, who that is going to be such a big deal. Not only were our values aligned, they were aligned with us being a B Corp certified company. So that meant we give away 2% of our annual revenues every year to causes that matter to us. That's to our Cheekbone Beauty Scholarship Fund. So is the person and entity that we partner with in the future. The good news is, thankfully, because the state of the climate, the world we're in, there's a lot of private equity companies now that are actually paying attention and investing and looking to invest in companies that are doing things differently and better, which is, I think when I started, maybe that wasn't as popular. As I've been paying attention over the years, knowing that Raven would want an exit someday, who invests in us is going to matter. So I now know organizations, I have my eye out. Am I going to start sending them and trying to build relationships with them? Yes, of course, right? As we think about transitioning and changing. And I've always recognized that it may never be exactly how maybe I envisioned the brand in the early days, and there will be maybe compromises that I have to think about. But I know that the values that created the brand and the community that surround that were on purpose and for a reason. And so that would be my selling point to the future partner, and for them to recognize that the community is here because of these reasons. Those are changes and those are deals that you can make on paper prior to going into any financial relationship.
Oh, I like that, because one thing that I've noticed in common, like what you said with other persons that I've interviewed on this interview series, and even prior to this interview series, some of them have said, even though we've considered the cost and we know that could be rising every year, and we have a clear trajectory from learning from the mistakes and the growing pains, sometimes it can get so busy that it's overwhelming. So like you just said that I now keep my personal and my business separate But at the same time, sometimes it can get overwhelming because, like you said, I don't know where the company is going. It's good now, it's great, and I know where it's going to continue. But as you said, as time goes along, you want to be within the parameters of being sustainable as well. And would you say that going in, people like yourself, maybe in the beauty industry, not only just as an Indigenous business owner, but do you think maybe financial professionals of diverse kinds, maybe providing more support to people like yourself could make a difference?
Absolutely. I feel like when your values align with someone, which a lot of us come from the same kinds of communities, that really does matter. So I feel like it could make a big difference for sure.
Yeah, because one thing I've noticed with some business owners, simply I've seen where their business is flourishing, but they're like thousands of dollars in debt to pay their mortgage, or they're way behind, or they're like, I might have to sell my home because I invested into this company, and even though the investors that I had poured in more than my capital, I'm still in debt, or I'm still $1,000 behind, or my personal finances are well, but maybe I need to move to a different space, right? Maybe I need to do other small investments that I may have taken for granted to go into this bigger space because maybe my investors are not going to invest at the time in which I need it to be. So I feel like creativity in the financial space has to happen. And as you said that you didn't know that you had to reach out to people because it just didn't occur to you, right? But you do have the financial professionals, not sorry, but persons like yourself in the field where there's a little bit of ego. I'm ashamed to say that I need help. Or the small things I don't think for that.
Overwhelmed
Or it's
too.
overwhelming
Yeah,
too.
that I think for myself personally, it was just like, you're overwhelmed within you're in the thing doing the thing, and so to go ask for help wasn't even like you're kind of like it didn't even come to the mind until I don't know when it was when I was just like, I'm just gonna go ask, and I asked someone. I'm like, oh wow, like why didn't I do this a lot sooner? You're just so busy that you don't think about it. But to have a network of people, I think for me personally, being a part of so many different organizations and groups has been very helpful as well, because you hear conversations, and that then being at an event where some woman just piped up and said, ask for help, and it reminded me, okay, that's what I should do, go ask for help. So it's those kinds of situations as well that are extremely important.
Oh, so do you think that, let's say, like people like myself, like I'm a mortgage agent and I diversify with the refinance, renewal, debt consolidations, etc. And in addition to that, I have, and I'm still expanding on my team to provide such diverse services to professionals like yourself and others from a residential standpoint and from a commercial standpoint. Because I said, I've met somewhere their personal finances are not the best. They're not maybe doing the best at managing it. And sometimes it's not because they don't want to, it's because, like you said, they just get so overwhelmed with everything else. I need another pair of eyes or another set of hands just to help me. And some of which, like, if my personal finances are okay, then, like, my business is failing and stuff. And, like you said, it comes down to being overwhelmed and bombarded because it's so much. So, would you say that maybe people like myself, whether it be on a residential level or a commercial level, helping a person like yourself, it could actually improve maybe your ability to focus, your performance, your growth? You think that could make a big difference?
I think so, for sure. I mean, I'm fortunate. I have an excellent partner in life, my husband, and so we've always had financial goals and been able to manage and stick to them. So I feel like had I not had that, I couldn't imagine sometimes how messy things could be, right? So having a support system when it comes to your personal and business finances is an absolute must, whatever that looks like. And to have, like, it'd be like hiring a consultant for anything else, right? So it is an asset for sure.
Yeah, because it was actually a while ago I spoke to a couple and they were like our finances are good, but if we had somebody to tell us like, you actually can improve your goal by just doing this. Like if you're comfortable and you're on a good space, you know exactly what you're doing, but this just actually came out. Maybe the Bank of Canada said this. If you like to continue your goal of doing this, you can do that. So like a peer of mine shared that additional knowledge, even when you're structured, is always good.
Absolutely.
Additional knowledge, let's just say, Cheekbone Beauty, 'cause I know you don't have
Industry
any physical
insights.
stores, right?
Yeah.
You guys are in Sephora.
Right.
You guys are in Sephora and you guys are throughout Canada right now, or you all are in certain provinces?
Canada, yeah.
Throughout all provinces or just
80,
some?
80 stores throughout all the provinces.
throughout all the provinces, right?
Yeah.
And let's just say expanding, you guys decide maybe you want to expand to the US or something like that, right? Or maybe not even the US. Let's just say you want to expand your stores in a particular province where it's low, right? Let's say I'm just calling off the top of my head. Let's just say Saskatchewan. And let's say Saskatchewan's like limit is that okay, Cheekbone Beauty could realistically maybe 3 stores and like 3 different malls, that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
If you had somebody to tell you that, guess what? There are commercial properties that you can do, or there are residential properties that you can buy and you can utilize the land and you can build something on it for a fraction of a cost, and it's going to align with what your financial professionals have as a trajectory. I think things like that could help. Because that's something that you might not have thought about. Wow, I didn't even think those options are
I'm like, that's what my CFO is for, though, correct? Like, that's why every time when we have to grow, and I go to him and I'm like, this is what we want. This is our growth. Go tell me how that looks and what's the dollar value of that going to look like for us to grow. And we'll just use your example as an example. Say we wanted to grow in Saskatchewan. He would have those numbers. But not all small businesses my size have the luxury of having a CFO. So
that's the thing.
Yeah.
That is very true. Not everybody has that luxury.
And they need like for a business to actually grow, if you don't have somebody with strategic thinking on your team, your business is never going to grow. You need a strategic thinker.
And do you think in the beauty industry, because now people are getting creative with expanding their business, obviously we see real estate has taken a very interesting turn in Toronto, where people are even getting creative in terms of real estate, right? People are even expanding. We're using large properties for Airbnb, some of which is just going to be catered towards women and children, just to creating safe spaces. Some of which where people are like, you know what? Instead of doing the pop-up shop thing, I'm going to invest in this affordable property where I can even sell my merchandise. I can create communities. There's so much of creativity in the real estate field where it's not just a regular buy a home, pay a mortgage, invest. Yeah. Right? It's not the same. And I see even medium-sized and large-scale businesses are even looking towards creative paths, right?
Yeah. That's the kind of strategic thinking that's absolutely needed. I mean, for me personally, anytime I think about making kind of a deal on a situation, say we wanted to move products here or do this kind of thing there, I'm like, what creatively could that look like? Instead of me paying you this, what if I did this and then we work together? Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So having someone on your team that comes with creative ideas is absolutely critical.
And as you said, team. I actually know a couple business owners that said to me, which I thought was really interesting, that I'm okay in my business, my personal finances are okay, but my team needs help. Like my team is, like one person, she told me, she's like, my team is scattered. Like one person's renting, one person's probably needs to file for bankruptcy, the next person's behind on their mortgage, and she said, I've told my team with love and a little bit of tough love that if you don't have yourself gathered, right, even if you're working for me and you're in my company, if you don't have your personal finances gathered to the best of your ability to meet whatever goals are designed for you, you're always going to feel that mental health and struggle, and that is going to play a role in how you perform. Absolutely. So do you think maybe even business owners might consider, like, if I don't even need the assistance, like, my team probably needs the help. Like, my team maybe needs somebody to talk to. Guess what? Maybe somewhere to stay. Maybe invest in a form of home ownership that you could afford and sustain, sell later on, grow. Maybe invest in your education, invest in helping your family. Do you think maybe even owners need to also look at that, helping their team financially as well too? I
mean, healthy, happy teams are the only way you're going to grow your business. If your team is not healthy and happy, then you're in big trouble as well. And I think we're in a position in the world right now where it's not like you can be like, well, I'm just going to figure out how to let this person go because they're struggling. What we need to do is figure out how to support people. And so that's a big part of it. Like, we take mental health at Cheekbone very seriously. It's part of we have extra added benefits for stuff like that for employees. But we know financial and economic stress is a huge component to mental health concerns. And so getting creative about how to help your team in those kinds of ways is I think it's needed and a must, and there should be no question about that, because your business will not be successful unless your people are successful and feel happy. And it's a very interesting fact about Cheekbone is we don't pay the best. I'm a small business. I think people could probably go make more money working somewhere else. However, how can I support them in other ways?
Yeah.
And their happiness is a factor in why they work at Cheekbone. They know that our business is purpose driven. We're on it. We have a big, strong mission, and regardless of perhaps us not paying them the best, there's other benefits to working for the company, which include making sure that, you know, their lives are happy outside of work as well. And so being the kind of owner operator that is always available to support the team in that way, it's critical. But honestly, no small business, no medium business, no large business, if the team is falling underneath sort of the leadership levels, things are going to give and crack.
Yeah, and that's something I've been talking to business owners. So I spoke to business owners. She said, like, you know, my finances are fine, like, my mortgage is okay and stuff like that, but my team needs help. And she's like, they're not listening to me. They love me and I love them, but maybe you speaking to them might give them, because sometimes a perspective that is outside of the space is sometimes a little bit better. She said, because I know that if you speak to them and help them in certain ways where they're stable and whatever goals they want to meet, they will perform better. And she said, I think I probably met, I can honestly say, maybe 3 business owners, including you, that has said that, like, my team probably could use some pointers. Like, my team probably needs a little bit of assistance, or my team, it won't hurt for them to hear certain things to improve their mental health, to perform at a job. And it just all around actually makes them feel mentally better.
It's all part of, like, the wellness, like, we call it a wellness package. Yeah, right?
Because
it's all part of that.
Because let's be real, when homelessness is at its height in Toronto, and it is impacting people's mental health. It is. And it doesn't matter how driven, like you say, your company is. If your company doesn't invest in you in terms of being able to perform, it's not going to happen, right? No. You're always going to feel like you're falling short and stuff. So based on all that we talked about, because you gave me such great pointers, such great feedback, this is why I have this, so I could hear, like, as a financial professional, yes, I'm doing mortgages and I'm doing this, but how am I helping you to feel mentally better with whatever financial goals that you want? Whatever is your Mount Rushmore, whatever is your shining star, what are the ways I can help you feel mentally better through finance? Notice I'm not saying make your money grow, but how you feel mentally better. You know what I mean? That's my main thing. How do you mentally feel, better? Just like having your goals enhanced, having them protected, and not feeling that you're bombarded. And also at your own time and, your own pace and stuff. So you shared a lot with me and I loved it. And for somebody like myself in the field of finance, based on what all you showed me, shared with me, what do you think are very brief and very simple ways that I could lend that kind of help, that kind of expertise to support to owners like yourself, or even your teams or intersecting team, because teams are a lot in the business, right? You have your first team, you have your intersecting team, you have your next team, and everybody's part of the pie, right? So how do you think maybe persons like myself could lend that support? You know what I mean? Like, whether it be to Cheekbone Beauty, whether it be to other businesses, whether it be to other Indigenous businesses, sustainable businesses, like, based on what I've shared about what I do and what your concerns are, like growing in the beauty industry, what do you think that people like myself could lend and bring support and, or maybe advocacy? Like,
yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're on the right path. Like, reaching out to teams sounds like a great way that someone like yourself could definitely support organizations. So I would, like, craft your pitch in that direction. You know what I mean? Is like, you're only as good as the sort of the weakest. Wording it a little bit different, but we're only as good as, the weakest people in our countries, in our communities. So how do you make sure your team is super strong? Will you make sure that they're taken care of, not only through providing them a job, but a job that they feel healthy, happy, they feel well, and that includes financial health, right?
Of course, and like you said, maybe having of something that even you can grow their own generational wealth, right? Because if you have a place that you're working in that makes you mentally feel better, having generational wealth is important. So generational wealth for me is not about necessarily having children or having this or whatever. Whatever is for you to live happily on this earth in a safe domain, wherever it may be, a bungalow, a small house, a pool, whatever is going to make you feel mentally better, that you could sustain. That for me is my honest goal for people. Like you said, whatever it is to just make you feel better, that I could live, I could enjoy, and I could fill myself into purpose-driven spaces.
And I feel like if you were able to share maybe some case studies, I think that is beneficial and helpful, right? To be able, because people want to see, people love in beauty the before and the after. And I imagine in finance, they want the before and the after as well. So I feel like that could be like, this is a team we went and supported, and this is them after. You know, one of my big missions at Cheekbone, especially for all of the people who've been with us, our organization, is when we do have this moment where Raven is exiting from their shares, that some of my team members are going to get some pieces of equity into the business. And that to me is something that I've always felt so proud of, that, you know, because I've never been here about just, it wasn't never just about money, right? There was such a big mission behind Cheekbone. It's why these people work for me. It's why they've worked so hard for me. And to have them have a piece of that someday, somehow, some way.
Yeah, and maybe they could take that, invest into the property or whatever. It is to make them feel comfortable.
But it's like that, to me, that is where you show people their value, right? Is when
and like you said, you're worthy to have something that's your own. There's nothing, there's no dream that's too big, whatever. If your goal is that I want a 2-bedroom house because I've always wanted this and this makes me feel happy, it's there. Not that you shouldn't be supported.
And I mean, just like, I think it's really interesting because in Toronto, real estate has always been so much different than in Niagara, where we're headquartered. And so all the people that work at Cheekbone actually now live in Niagara. One of the girls that came there, moved there with their family during the pandemic, just before everything skyrocketed, even in our area. And so it's really nice to, like, we're in a little bit of a different region of Ontario, where homes were still affordable many years ago. And it's a lot different than Toronto, which I know. I have a brother that's always lived here. He went to college, ended up here, and he knows home ownership may never be on his path, and he might not want it to be either, because I told you I have a daughter in Rotman. She's in finance. She's an economics major. She's the money person in our family. And there's massive studies that say perhaps home ownership isn't the way to financial freedom. There's math on it. So you can rent and still be financial. Like, invest in the S&P 500 is probably the best way to invest your dollars.
And that's the next thing I was sharing with a client of mine. And I was like, you don't have to own the home. And I said, you know, you could just have tenants and rent the home. And I said, because these individuals are creative and they're in the entertainment space, I said, because, you know, people in entertainment have, you know, fluctuations in their incomes, you could decide, you know what, this property I'm investing is actually affordable rent for creatives. And he said, I never thought about it. I said, no. Home ownership, I'm like, doesn't mean you have to own the property.
No.
It doesn't mean that you have to live in it. You could decide, you know what, this is just a way of me earning an income, but in the same way, it fulfills a purpose of sustainability. One other client that I had, he said, I want to invest in real estate for community, where we could all benefit from the equity, but it gives youth a chance and a space and a safe space to invest in their creative talent, singing, dancing, acting, comedy. He said, that's my next goal for real estate. That's my honest goal. So for me, I want to just navigate away from just real estate as only home ownership. You could do so much of things with it.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Well, I thank you so much.
Thank you.
I loved it. I think you gave me so much to think about. You gave our viewers so much to think about. And I mean, did you like everything I had to say? I hope you loved.
No, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm so glad.
Conversation.
Well, I'm so glad. So I have 5 fun questions that I ask everybody
All right.
at the end of the podcast. So I'll give you these 5 fun questions. So, a gingerbread house or candy cane house?
Gingerbread.
Yeah, gingerbread. Yeah.
I love ginger.
As a child, I loved candy cane, but as I got older, I went to more team gingerbread.
Yeah, I love a ginger cookie. Is hands down my favorite cookie.
Okay, so finish shopping early in November or thriving on last minute adrenaline in December?
Well, I don't do Christmas, so I don't.
Okay.
So there's no rush there. And to be perfectly honest, I because of this mission and Cheekbone sustainability, I'm probably like the worst consumer people want. They want the people like my daughter and her friends who are like, they buy all the trends and stuff, but I'm just like, I'm so conscious of things I buy now. It's just like, it has to serve a need. Like I needed.
It has to be really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I just, yeah.
Yeah.
In my younger days, totally different, but now I'm just so much more thoughtful.
Yeah, like I do have friends of mine as well that like they don't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
But some shop early just because they said I don't want to be part of the Christmas.
It's
rush."
crazy.
Yeah,
They
said
I
yeah,
avoid
yeah.
every shopping experience in December. I'm not going into any malls in December. That is for sure.
Yeah.
I actually have to go to the Eaton Center today because we're doing a master class, but it's going to be scary.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm not looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
I have relatives have said that I may never celebrate Christmas, but I'm not going in a mall in
Yeah,
December.
yeah,
I have a friend of mine. She's not really big based on her religious and certain reasons for not celebrating Christmas.
Yeah.
But she just said, I just love the community. I love in December just the community vibe where you're not alone. And she just said, I just love it.
No, I feel like this time of year they're just, it's buzzy. There's a buzz, right?
Yeah. The buzzer. Okay.
Yeah.
So next question I have is Harmony liquid lip gloss or Warrior liquid lipstick? I took a look through your stuff and I love it. I'm going to be placing some orders. And I
lip
do
gloss.
love it. Oh, why is that? Why is that? Which one? Why is that?
I just like that I can keep reapplying it. It just makes my lips feel nourished without sticky or too gloss. Like I just love the formula, the texture.
Oh, it's not too sticky. It's not too
sticky, yeah.
I actually did try
But it
a
gives
couple
like a
of.
nice shine.
I tried. I remember it was before COVID. I believe my producer and I,
Mm-hmm.
we tried. I believe it was some of like your pen, like your eye pencil you make, and it felt very smooth on the eye.
Yes,
It felt very smooth. Yeah, because the scraping on the eye, it's no. I don't. I need that stress. I already wear bifocals, and that's enough stress. So I don't need scraping on the eye.
No,
the scraping on the
you wanna
eye.
be gentle to the eyes.
Yes. So next question is that would you say, well, at least for, number 4, I will say is that pineapple upside down cake or classic fruit cake?
Pineapple upside down cake.
Pineapple upside, you are rare because most people would say fruit cake.
Oh no.
Why would you say pineapple upside down
I just
cake?
love pineapple. Like on eating it as the fruit. I love the cake. I like it on pizza. And I'm married to an Italian, so that's like a cardinal sin in his books to put pineapple on pizza, but I love pineapple everywhere.
Oh no, I love it, and my broker name is pineapple. I love pineapple, and Caribbean people love pineapple. They love pineapple in any excuse, whether it's pickled, whether it's food.
Ooh, I've never had it pickled.
No, so like in the
Dried is really
Caribbean,
good.
so in the Caribbean we have something called pineapple chow. So it's actually influenced by like an African indigenous way of preparing, which like it's fresh herbs, spices, onions, and it's left similar to like a pickle fashion. It's left like 24 hours, and then you eat it very sour. It's actually very good. I can send you the recipe.
Yummy.
No, it's
Yeah,
really really good.
it sounds delicious.
If you just start eating it, you won't stop.
Down east, my mom is originally from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Like the origins of our family. Then they lived all over her side of the family. Like, but they make a chow with tomato, and it's pickled tomato. So when you're saying this, I'm like, oh, and you can eat it with meat, like as a side, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so definitely. So you're like team pineapple upside down cake, definitely. Okay, so would you say spiked eggnog or spiked hot chocolate?
I don't drink any alcohol, so eggnog without the spike.
Okay, eggnog. Why do you prefer eggnog over
I don't
hot
know. I
chocolate?
love eggnog. It's so weird. I just love eggnog.
Oh no, I don't. I can't give you wrong. I love it. So for us in Trinidad and Tobago, we don't say eggnog. Well, it is eggnog.
Yeah.
But we say poncha creme, right? Oh. So it's a Creole word. And for those my viewers who don't know, Creoles people, I'm pretty sure you know. They're the blend of African, indigenous, and European roots, right? Yeah. So we use a particular type of rum that is used called punchin. It's a particular type of rum that is used, and the methods that we use mixing with egg, milk, and spices, it's influenced from like indigenous spices of cinnamon and stuff. Then we use like the eggs because our people weren't eating eggs. At one point in time, eggs were not necessarily part of our culture until like a certain point in time. And then the way in which Africans would make like milky, very like drinks. So between those 3 cultures, we drink that, and that is our eggnog. So some people will drink it with alcohol.
So eggnog always has alcohol or no?
No, well, people make it both ways. So, like, all of us love it with alcohol. But I do have relatives, and I do have friends of mine, like, who are Black and Indigenous, and they don't consume alcohol, and they make it without alcohol. So you can make it with, or you make it without alcohol.
Yeah. I love the carton, so this is so, like, basic of me, but, like, at the holiday time, it's always in the stores,
Yes.
and I would buy like the carton,
Yeah.
and it's so many calories, like it's very high.
Yeah.
But I would like in a week drink the
Yeah.
whole thing because I just love the taste, like with the nutmeg sprinkled on top.
Yeah.
So yummy.
So some people actually use eggs in like ours, like internet.
Yeah.
Some people use eggs. Some people use pumpkin. And I actually remembered sharing that with some other peers of mine who are indigenous. They're like, "You guys use pumpkin?" They're like, "They said that I would have never thought in the Caribbean that similar to like how pumpkin and squash are native, whatever." They said I would have never thought that pumpkin and like in certain foods or drinks or stuff like that. And you're like, wow, we really are connected. But no, it's an amazing, it's our eggnog. It's so good and it's very addictive. It's homemade. It's obviously you can get certain brands that are sold in grocery stores and stuff like that. But a lot of us just make it homemade in bottles and stuff like that.
Oh wow, I
So-
should try making it home.
Oh no, I give you the recipe.
Okay.
It's wonderful. Some people use eggs, some people use pumpkin, but either way, it gives a great taste. It gives a really, really great taste.
I love it.
Yes. But thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate it. And to my viewers, thank you for tuning in with us. And please stay posted as we continue these conversations. Thank you, Jen, again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in with Value and Vibes with Rivelle. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, and of course, support Cheekbone Beauty products, an amazing Indigenous-owned brand that is doing things in amazing ways. Thank you so much.